Morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing fantastically well. It's Conor McGilligan. We're back here with the Rumour Mill, your daily dose of Leeds United post Portsmouth 3. Leeds United 3, I should say the other way around, shouldn't I? Leeds 3, Portsmouth 3. A 6-goal thriller, which took centre stage when it came to the first championship game, week 1. Leeds United coming out with a point, definitely deserved winners, I would say, but football doesn't work that way. Let's hark you back to Leeds United 1, Wigan 2, where they had about 2 shots during the entire game. That is how football works. You have to put your chances away. But we're back here, everybody. And listen, it is the start of a fresh game week, isn't it? We've got Middlesbrough this week. We've got West Bromwich Albion on the horizon, 12:30 at the weekend. And by golly gosh, after that 3-1 win against QPR, who well, my tip really at the start of the season in terms of getting into that top 8, maybe a little bit of a surprise package with Martí Cifuentes, 3-1 to the Baggies on the road. And have they replaced Thomas Asante with Josh Maja in the perfect way? 3 goals already, rocketing Josh Maja up to the top of the scorer charts in the Championship. We also saw this weekend an extremely impressive performance by Sheffield Wednesday, obviously beating Plymouth and absolutely battering Plymouth as well. 6-7 it should have been. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because Leeds United, it should and probably could have been 6-7-8 on Saturday. It wasn't to be. Leeds came out and got a draw and had to really get that back from the clutches of defeat. But we are where we are, everybody. We move on, and it's a new week of transfers. It's a new week of discussion. We are entering, as I've said on Twitter, week 3 of Jonny Rowe discussions or talks, as Leeds United are well in the race, apparently, according to several sources. I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say this morning. As I say, we are entering, I mean, what date are we on right now? It is the 12th of August, which means that there are 2 weeks left of the transfer window. Now, really exciting things coming together as well when it comes to transfer windows. Squads are going to be confirmed. Premier League squads obviously being confirmed, which means certain individuals are going to be left out. I've always thought with the transfer window, it gets heated, it gets electric around about 2 weeks to go. And we've not really seen a massive transfer window when it's come to news, when it's come to other bits as well. It's been quite quiet, has to be said, on the circuit. I think there's been probably a lot more free transfers, a lot more loans than we'd expect, but actual permanent transfers, it's been a bit of an interesting one. Now, before we get started, everybody, I have to deliver you a little bit of an offer. Which is really exciting stuff, as you can see on screen. Now, we have partnered with Football Prizes for this season, and there's a huge Leeds United competition with Matteo Joseph signing custom LED frame shirt plus 17 instant win prizes. You need to enter for £3.95, and this is a huge Leeds United competition, and it could be yours for only £3.95. This competition has a star prize of Mr. Matteo Joseph signing custom LED frame shirt with 17 instant win prizes, everybody. Jorginho Rutter signed away shirt, 23-24 squad signed shirt, 2 hospitality tickets to Leeds versus Hull, a Wilfred Nonto signed shirt, and many more. Guys, if you want to join that, link is in the description below. If you don't, you're an absolute nutter. And there's more tickets there. There's more of a pool, but the prizes are nuts. And if they weren't sponsoring the channel, I would 100% be getting involved with that. But how is everybody doing this morning? Let's have a gauge on the chat. Martin says, just a thought. If we are not bidding for Rak Sakyi, will the police be after Conor for spreading online information? Ina's in the building. Hello, Ina. Yeah, lots of you in the chat. The mug in the back. Yeah, mate. Are you talking about me or the actual mug? But you can get these if you're interested, and you can get these Bremner shirts and all this sort of stuff. Link in the description below if you're interested. Everyone in merchandise. Firthy says, "G'day, Conor. Hope you're doing okay over there in the UK. All good, mate." Shout out to Martin Smith, who's become a new member this morning. Okay, so what do we know? Now, I've just mentioned the loan bracket there, everybody, when it comes to Leeds United and Premier League clubs having to establish their squads. I believe it's 25 men squads for the season going ahead. Now, this is where I'm kind of looking at this. This is coming very, very soon. And there are some big names to maybe look at in terms of players being left out. You know, there are a lot of huge names out there which could definitely transition to the Championship. And I think a lot of business is being halted at the minute and being sort of stopped by clubs looking at that and clubs thinking, well, we can maybe pinch him if they're not included in the sides, or if they're almost like just included in the sides, but they've had conversations with the club and said, look, you're in the squad, but you're not going to be playing. And I feel in the transfer window every single season, this is where we get the kickstart and I wonder if this is going to start with a lot of Leeds United discourse when it comes to transfers. Now, what do we know? And it's been a mental weekend, really. So the game finishes, Leeds 3, Portsmouth 3. Mental. Then from what I've been told, there's been discussions going on with Mr. Rowe for ages, and I was really surprised by this. Someone had said to me at 1 p.m, there'll be a big surprise coming today from the Norwich side of things. A big surprise. Now, I was a little bit like, okay, well, what's going on here? Is Rowe going to be starting? Is he going to be sold today? What's going on? And then 3 o'clock, I saw the team sheet. He's not in it at all. Squad, that's massive. He is a academy product. He's Mr. Norwich. That was huge. I didn't expect that whatsoever. So obviously that was the big surprise. Jonny Rowe omitted from the squad by his own admission. He wanted to be his agent, all this sort of stuff. Now, that folds up loads of questions. We've experienced all this before with the Note 6. We've experienced this all before when it's come to Willian Yonso and issues when it's come to Adams and Sinisterra and stuff like that, when it's come to involvement and getting lawyers involved and all that fun stuff. But Jonny Rowe out of the squad. So immediately you're thinking, whoa, what's going on here? Are Leeds maybe making a few roads here? Are we making a few signatures here? What's going on? Marseille, then by 2 journalists, are said to have been the only club who've put a formal bid in for Jonny Rowe. All we know from the Leeds side of things is there was a discussion at 7 million quid, and nothing seems to advance have advanced from that. Norwich, no way happening 7 million quid. They are saying 15 million quid. Additionally to that, apparently Leeds were a little bit rocked by the Marseille bid. Leeds United thought that it was going to be discussions between Leeds and Jonny Rowe and Norwich representatives and all this sort of stuff. They did not expect this from Marseille. So Marseille are now in the picture, fully in the picture. Jonny Rowe's omitted himself from the side. Now, that would suggest to me that Rowe and his representatives are talking to Marseille and their representatives, and they're maybe saying, look, to lower the price, you need to force out a move here. It forces Norwich's hand and it helps Marseille massively. I heard a lot of people saying, why would you choose Marseille over Leeds? Now, look, we've got to take those white tinted spectacles off. Aside from last season, Marseille were finishing, I believe it was top 4 for 8 years on the bounce. You might say, oh, Ligue 1's this and that, the other league. It's not. It's a very good standard. It's in one of the top leagues in the world. And ultimately, Marseille are one of the biggest clubs, if not probably second biggest club in that, division when you look at European standings over the years, yada, yada, yada. So Marseille are a massive club. My granddad lives near Marseille, and they are a huge club, massive club in France. So there's a huge attraction there. And obviously they're in the first division. They're probably going to be playing back in Europe next season, which Jonny Rowe is probably looking at. So that in comparison to Leeds United, who, let's hope we get back to the Premier League. We get back to the Premier League. Excellent, amazing, but still we're going to be fighting relegation. Does Jonny Rowe want that? His profile is going to be a lot higher if he goes to Marseille, and then maybe one of these idiotic clubs in the top 10 who are willing to flash cash around. It seems like English players go to Europe and English clubs go, oh, okay, we'll take a punt on that for 30 million. That seems to happen in the English game. So maybe that's what his moving pattern is. So that's what is happening with Jonny Rowe. Then immediately, Alan Nixon, who I've spoken about on the channel before, and as well here, you just said there as well, Marseille must have listed Rowe as their Ismail Sarr replacement. That's exactly what I was just about to get onto there. But then you look at Jonny Rowe, you look at Rak Sakyi, and what do we know fundamentally? Crystal Palace will not let him go. Okay, they will not let him go. So let's join the dots here and look at this logistically. So Leeds have probably looked at Jonny Rowe and thought, no, that's not going to happen now. We'll still remain in talks, because Marseille haven't signed the guy, but it feels way more advanced with him and Marseille. Now you're looking at Rak Sakyi, and Leeds have gone, right, okay. And what is confirmed, everybody, is he's one of Leeds' top targets. That's pretty much set in stone. So Leeds have gone to Crystal Palace, and Hull and Sheffield United are well in advanced conversations with Crystal Palace, et cetera, et cetera. Now, Crystal Palace have lost Elise this window, Bayern Munich, and you do wonder if maybe there is a clause in that contract of which Rak Sakyi can be called back to Crystal Palace. Okay. Now, the obvious window here would be January, of which we've seen breaks in contracts, and that's an almost obligation. Okay. It's in there. Not an option, it's an obligation. So, Crystal Palace, in my opinion, backed up by a few things, Crystal Palace have said this to Sheffield United, have said this to Hull. They've gone, right, okay, how about this? Okay. And Sheffield United and Hull have gone, okay, interesting. Yeah, we'll take that. That's okay. It's a risk we're willing to take. Rak Sakyi's that good. Leeds aren't happy with that. Okay. So Leeds are evidently not happy with that, and they don't want to break in the clause. That is the only thing that makes sense here. 15 million quid bid is never going to be accepted by Crystal Palace because they want to keep hold of him. And Crystal Palace, at some point this season, might want to call Rak Sakyi back, and that might have to be in the contract, of which, if he is a direct replacement for Crysencio Somerville, Leeds are not going to take on, obviously. So then, in my opinion, Leeds have then not panicked as such, but Leeds have then gone, right, okay, well, the loan's not going to happen. We're going to flush them with a 15 million quid bid and test their resolve. So that is the picture. That is the overall picture of what's going on now. So what do I think? I think we're going to miss out on Rowe. I think we're going to miss out on Rak Sakyi. I think, from what we understand, it's pretty much nailed on with the Blades now. It's nailed on. Loan move, a breakage option in his clause to Sheffield United, which will never be released from their side, but we'll hear this come out from journalists, of which Palace can recall him back at any point. With the January break clause being the obvious one, he will go to Sheffield United, and Leeds will be left without Rak Sakyi there. I think that's going to happen. Jonny Rowe, I think, will go to Marseille, especially if they're willing to do add-ons in the deal and all this sort of stuff, which maybe raise it to 12 to 13 million quid. But if Jonny Rowe is refusing to play, it almost forces Norwich's hand a little bit. Now, a lot of you guys will be saying, well, Connor, couldn't Leeds get involved in that? Couldn't Leeds get involved in that? We can definitely get involved in that. However, what we do know is Jonny Rowe is excited by the Marseille move and Marseille conversation and talks like that, from which we've pretty much heard from Romano. We've not heard this from Rowe and Leeds yet. It feels like Rowe and Leeds has been blown up online, 100%. Leeds are evidently interested in him, but it feels like Rowe and Leeds is very, very much at the beginning stage still. And I don't know why that is. Is it Leeds trying to negotiate that price down? But Marseille at least have made that formal bid of 8 million quid. We were talking about 7 million quid, which isn't even a formal bid we've made. So Marseille have started with that. Will Norwich accept? I've got a feeling Norwich will come down a little bit. Might be a little bit of a disruption there. They've lost at the weekend as well. You don't want bad eggs in the camp. Will they come down a little bit? Would that aid Leeds? Of course it would. But then you're talking about a shootout of what would Jonny Rowe prefer? What would he prefer? And me taking my spectacles off. Marseille finished 8th last season. They've got a decent coach and they've got a decent squad. They're in the top division. They're one of France's biggest clubs, one of Europe's biggest clubs. And the likelihood is they're going to rise this season and get back into those European places. So Ismail Sarr as well, leaving a gap there for Jonny Rowe. It feels a little bit more obvious. And would he get more playing time? Is he going to get more playing time than he would at Leeds United? If he comes to Leeds, he's going to be battling with Willian Jonso on that left-hand side. So this is the whole problem with the loan structure as well, everybody. Leeds can't guarantee minutes. And it's a beneficiary for the club, of course, because we've got a very, very good starting 11. You go from back to front. Illan Meslier, 100% would be replaced, in my opinion. Junior Firpo is a conversation because Firpo is very good at this level. Strauch, Rodon, you got Verber in behind that as well. And I'm talking about an addition coming in. Bashir Humphreys, another one from Chelsea, who's more of a rotation option on the back four, but you can't guarantee him minutes. On that right-hand side, Jayden Bogle, who starts every single week. The midfield is a conversation. Nobody's getting 90 minutes fully. Even Joe Rothwell, Leeds would have gone to Bournemouth and say, look, we can't guarantee him minutes, but he'll be in the competition. Of course he will, which is exactly what it was at Southampton. Him starting on the bench did surprise me because he should be starting. But however, you can't guarantee Joe Rothwell minutes, who, in my opinion, is the second best midfielder at the club. Technically, he could be the first. And then the front four, who's getting in there? Who is getting in there? And that is the conversation. That is the conversation we've got to have here on the One Leeds fan channel. If you're bringing in Rowe, you're bringing in Rak Sakyi, the guaranteed minutes Rak Sakyi 100% at Sheffield United. There's a spot there for him. Hull, obviously a guaranteed spot there with it for him as well, but he's probably going to go to the Blades. But Jonny Rowe, where does he fit in? That's what these players want to know. Am I going to go to Leeds United and be sat on the bench? He doesn't get ahead of Willian Gnonto, but maybe what you do there is you'd shift Rowe out right, and you'd shift Gnonto out right, and you put Rowe left. Okay, but what we do have to say, everybody, is Dan James, and we have to say this once again, I don't have an agenda, bombs to the bench as soon as we get another winger. That's facts. That will happen. Okay. Once again, had a good game at the weekend. I was hearing a lot of people blowing up saying he was the best player on the pitch. Out of the attacking phase we had, including the midfielders, Dan James was bottom in terms of creating chances. So I think a lot of the the headspace with this, with the discourse around Dan James is fine. It's opinions, but Rutter had more chance creation than him. Perot had more chance creation than him. Joseph had more chance creation than him. Gnonto had more chance creation than him. Everybody had more chance creation than Dan James, and he was nigh on man of the match for many fans, even in my chat. I don't think that was the case, and I think what we're going to see is if I still don't feel that James blends with our front four. I didn't think it last year, personal perspective, and he did well last year. He did, but there's a difference between doing well and blending with that front four. I'm not 100% sure he blends with it. I don't think he does. But James was okay at the weekend. I thought he played well. But this whole notion that he creates all the time, he just doesn't. And I think if you get a technically able player in like Jonny Rowe, in my opinion, I know there's a conversation to be had. I understand that, a conversation to be had. And that's why I think Rowe evaluates his options, because, James might be ahead of him. I don't think he would be, but he might be ahead of him. So can you guarantee Rowe minutes? Not Sheffield United, but Marseille will be able to, because he literally fits that void. Same with Rak Sakyi. There's a break clause in the contract, potentially, for these loans, which Leeds wouldn't be happy with. Sheffield United are fine with. But on top of that, does he play week in, week out? Rak Sakyi? I think he would, but there's a conversation there, and maybe Rak Sakyi's thinking that as well. I need guaranteed minutes. And this pulls us all the way back to the conversation of Carvalho last year at Hull. Didn't want to come to Leeds because he's not getting minutes. And this is the issue with Leeds right now in terms of selling these players the dream. Yeah, Marty's become a new member. Shout out to you, my friend. Anyway, let's get some of the members chat on here as well as some others. 3 at the back going forward, says Kieran. Then Con, what do you think? To be honest, Kieran, there's been a lot of chat about the tactical imprint at the weekend with Daniel Farke. Now, on the channel, and what a lot of you guys who are doing the watch along and the post-match reactions and stuff like that we're discussing and we're quite right to be doing, was the issue I thought at the weekend was not so much about tactically. It was more about the tendencies that we've seen a lot with Daniel Farke. Again, and the players, look, 100%. We could have turned that game around. But the whole aspect with Farke in that particular game was the similar sort of things that we've seen to last season. Okay. Tactically, we looked all right. We were the dominant force in the game. Of course, we're the dominant force in the game, but I will still never deviate away from this pragmatic approach that Farke needs to instigate. I will never deviate away from the fact that the substitution should be brought on earlier. I will never deviate away from the fact that I don't understand why we're so slow when it comes to build up at points. And I think the tactical imprint of Daniel Farke works in the Championship. That's been seen before, and even last season, obviously. But I think sometimes the tendencies hurt Leeds, some of his stubbornness, and that's more of a character, a manager discipline than actually, what goes on in terms of moving players here and there, everywhere. Let's have a look. I have a feeling where I'm not holding on to Gnonto. Rowe on the left, Gnonto on the right. James is backup. Yeah, I can get behind that, mate. 100%. James says Maxwell Cornet on loan would be a great signing at this level. Can play left. Yeah, it's not a bad shout, James. And I can't imagine he's going to be fitting into their squad. And these are the signings that Leeds are going to have to be looking at. You look at the Bournemouth squad, you look at the Brentford squad, you look at those squads near in the bottom who you can pitch a lot of quality from. Brighton, on the periphery, these squads who've got very, very good players that might not be included in that 25 man and need minutes this season. Cornet is probably going to be one of those. Hi, Connor. I won't be surprised if we lose both Gnonto and Rutter. I don't think so, mate. I don't think that's going to happen. Sid's in the building. Hi, Sid. Morning, Connor. I hope you're well. If none of the players you discuss looking likely, do we go? Where do we go from here? Yeah, I think to be honest, mate, I've just said this there, and I think this is where Leeds are going to go. I think they've got targets. What Leeds will have is a sheet. And I believe it's probably very similar to what we saw before. 2 or 3 big targets. I genuinely believe Rak Sakyi was involved in that. And I think Rowe was involved in that as well. Don't know who maybe like a third option could be, or maybe it's just the top 2. And then I genuinely believe, hand on hearts is what I believe. I think they're going to go for this market of which there's a 25-man squad that has to be picked. And I think Leeds are going to go and look at that and think, right, okay, where can we go here? And pinch some of the players that are not going to get into the squad. I think that's going to be the third option. So you guys can go online, check out, James just said Maxwell Cornet there. There'll be others who are going to be left out of that squad. Maybe they haven't featured in pre-season. We go and get them. Similar to us when it probably was, maybe Charlie Cresswell, was he going to be even in the squad this season? Toulouse probably looked at that and thought, well, no, we can pinch him even before this happens for a decent price. So I think it's going to be really, really interesting in terms of that respect. How do Leeds go about that? Where do we go? And who's going to be coming in? But I think that's probably the market that we're going to be looking at, to be honest. Richard says perhaps Con should have a chat with his contacts in the club who said everything would be okay. Just like how we got Jadon Anthony. Yeah, exactly, Aidan. That's bang on, mate. That is the classic example of last season, isn't it? Jadon Anthony wasn't going to be included in the squad, surplus to requirements. And Richard, I sort of get what you're saying there, mate. And everything might be okay, mate. I mean, do we still look at what's going on now, like after the weekend, and think we'll throw the dummies, the toys out the pram, the dummy out the pram, and say that's it, Leeds are screwed, we're done? I think a lot of us and the reflective pieces that we did, we're going to be putting articles on the Patreon as well, everybody. If you're interested in that, we're going to be doing some reflective podcast pieces on there as well. Link is in the description below if you want some extended bits. But I think what the whole discourse at the weekend was more surrounded at the frustrations that were amplified last season that we're still seeing this season. There was a genuine possibility that Leeds could have won that game, or probability that Leeds could have won that game by 8 at the weekend, genuinely. But the intensity drop in, the lack of a press, subs been brought on late, there's a lot of the similar tendencies, relying on Vibes FC, all that other sorts of things were repeating themselves last season, and have come into this season as well. So that was the whole problem that we're reflecting on at the weekend. But when it comes to personnel coming in and the probability of Leeds going up, I'm still very confident. I'm still very, very confident. I am worried. I've said this constantly about the manager. I am worried about him, but do I think he's a tactically inept manager, a poor manager? I certainly do not. I really do not. But there's just certain stubbornness with Farke that I wonder, is it going to hurt us in the long run? I hope it doesn't. But will it hurt us in the long run? I have no idea. That is what time will pass and we will see. But overall, I'm not panicking right now. The squad needs depth to it, but overall, I think we're going to bring some bodies in. I would like us to go to the Mediterranean. I would like us to go to these places. I would like us to, can we delve into this market with Jordan Miles? It's interesting because I feel a lot of the signings have been domestic based, haven't they, for Leeds in the past 2 seasons now, aside really from Elia Gruev. I'd like to see us dip into that continent market where we can see players coming in from afar that we've seen in the Championship. I mentioned before, Elias Sher, Ben Rama, Buendia, Timu Puki, these players who've come in for next to nothing, can we expose that? Can we exploit that market? Because these players have such a technical ability. Samu Saiz, players like that who have such technicalities about their play, can they come in and really help us in this frame? And we don't have to spend a mass amount of money. That could definitely work. But as of right now, we're sort of looking at this English UK market, aren't we? Which is fine. We've just got to get these targets and then hopefully more bodies come in. But I don't think they're worried at all. They're worried from in the club. I don't think they are. I think they've got the targets. They're still really confident. And I think we'll just have to wait and see what happens, everybody. Yeah, a lot of people talking about. Mike's just tweeted about Rowe. Marseille considering going in. Leeds still in the background. Yeah, and it does feel like that. It just feels like Leeds are there. Maybe look. maybe Rak Sakyi's the top target. Has anybody ever thought about that? Have we ever discussed that in the fan base? Is Rak Sakyi the top target? Have Leeds been talking to him all along? Have they been talking to Crystal Palace all along? But we also know Southampton, Burnley, Sheffield United, Hull, Coventry have all inquired, all been interested. So maybe this process has got longer, and Jonny Rowe could 100% have been that second target, of which Leeds are right now. Rak Sakyi hasn't signed the dotted paper for Sheffield United, but potentially Leeds are going, well, he's not signed yet. So can we still convince him? And a £15 million bid would indicate that he's the top target, if true, would massively indicate he's the top target, because they won't do that for Rowe. They're talking about a £7 million investment there. They haven't even made a formal approach. Mike has just said the same thing. They're talking, so they're keeping that book open. But for me, right now, we've got a 1 and 2 target. And if you're asking me who the top target is, I think it's Rak Sakyi. I genuinely believe that. Because that bid, of which is from a guy, and a lot of you guys might say, yeah, well, it's Alan Nixon. He gets some things wrong. He doesn't get something wrong. I can tell you this for a fact. I can tell you this for a gospel fact. That man is so intertwined with Sheffield and South Yorkshire. He will have this nailed. Nailed on. Okay? I said this on the stream the other day. He's so intertwined with South Yorkshire. It's unbelievable. His hit rate over there is pretty damn good. Sheffield United fans love him. Sheffield Wednesday fans think he's decent as well. But he's got a massive presence when it comes to Barnsley, Rotherham, Doncaster, etc. So that is big. That is big when you're looking at it, because basically what's happened there is someone at Sheffield United has told him evidently that Leeds are going in big for Rak Sakyi and Palace on having it. So with that, if we're almost reacting to Sheffield United, getting closer and closer and closer to Rak Sakyi and go 15 million quid, I see that as he's the top target. He's the top target for me. Here you says, I'm guessing all quiet on the Jubicic front. I haven't heard any more updates. Yeah, it doesn't. It seems dead, that one, doesn't it? It seems dead. It's not far out yet, but some people need to down their pitchforks. But the ice is incredible. For him, Blaze Ramble says JRS is Blade's bound pal. As you've said, yep. Shout out to Sheffield United fans in the chat. Obviously, JRS is Jessarun Rak Sakyi, but it feels like that. And you do, as I've said multiple times, you do wonder if he's been our top target all along. But there's definitely a clause in this loan. I'm telling you, there's a clause in this loan. There has to be, which Leeds aren't happy with, and Sheffield United are fine with, Hull are fine with. Leeds just aren't. There's something there. Otherwise, I genuinely believe if he's Leeds' top target, which I think he is, and that's indicative of the £15 million bid that we put in the other day, Sheffield United are okay with this clause and Leeds aren't. Mr. P says Meslier will cost us points. I don't want to go on about Meslier too much. Where's the beat? Now, the Rak bid was a total smokescreen for. Honestly, mate, I think it's the other way around. I genuinely believe it's the other way around. I think Rak Sakyi is higher than a lot of people think on Leeds' list. They do not put 15 million quid in for Rowe. And if they do, I can be proven wrong. But 15 million up front as well, which it was, if that is true from Alan Nixon, that's crazy. That's gone, right, we need him, bang, let's test the resolve with this. But Palace won't sell him. He's not going to be sold. And that's why that is indicative of a clause been in his contract for Sheffield United. They won't sell and they want to call him back whenever they can. But Sheffield United clearly feel that Rak Sakyi will be able to give them enough no matter what. Yeah, no matter what. And we all know that's going to happen anyway, because he'll light up this division this year because he's so good. So yeah, it's a really, really interesting few weeks ahead for Leeds United, I think. But keep an eye on these windows being closed for the 25-man squad. For the 25-man squad. And let's just finish it out on Illan Meslier. You know, I've said this multiple times before. I think Leeds will be in a fantastic position if we replace the goalkeeper. You're all going to say, Connor, that's not going to happen. And you're all probably right. but Leeds would be in a much better position with the goalkeeper being replaced. Daniel Farke said the other day on a post-match interview that something like if that shot happened 69 times, Illan Meslier says 59 of those. Well, we just know that's absolute rubbish. And that doesn't happen. We have eyes, Daniel. That you're not going to fool any of us, mate. That doesn't happen. So yeah, I think Leeds would be in a fantastic position if they replace him, and I would probably replace him with 12, 13 goalkeepers. Like genuinely, like I could rack off probably around 12 goalkeepers. The obvious open goal is Carl Rushworth. And look, it's not it's not an exciting thing to talk about. You'll all say to me, Connor, it's not going to happen. But if we've been honest right now, it's so upsetting that the club aren't looking at that. And I would genuinely favour that right now over a centre midfielder. And you're going to say that's mental. That's how extreme I think replacing him in that position is, or at least bringing someone in to be close to him. Carl Rushworth is an open goal on a loan, an open goal. And at least we can prove Daniel Farke right. Bring Rushworth in and let's see what happens. If Meslier makes a mistake, Rushworth then goes in and let's see who keeps the place. Football's on a meritocracy. Let's see who is the better goalkeeper. Just bring him in. Just have a go. And I genuinely believe if Leeds replace the goalkeeper, that saves you. I mean, we had it statistically last season. Saves you a mass amount of points. I think that saves you 12 to 15 points this season, bringing in a goalkeeper. And is that more worthwhile than maybe having a central midfielder? Some of you may say yes. Some of you may say no. But I know this isn't going to happen. He's vice captain. Some of you might say it's pointless talking about it, but it's a debate fan channel. You've got to replace that keeper. You've got to replace him. If you don't, this is going to continue as it did last season, as it did the season before. We work on patterns and trends, everybody. And this guy, the manager who continues to back Illan Meslier, I understand it's not his decision ultimately. It's the lads at the top of the club. But if he continues to back him, players like this lose managers' jobs because they rely. And I fully believe that Meslier will make some great saves this season. I think that will happen. But the statistics tell you when it's on a goalkeeper, when it's on Illan Meslier, we're in trouble. Big trouble. So he, for me, is one of the number one replacements I will be looking at. I'd be looking at 100% over a centre midfielder. There's even a question over a left back. That's how serious I think it is. Let's have a look. What you guys are saying. Meslier does not demand the penalty area, does not command the defense's distribution. Yeah, 100%. And I just think, look, if you can't sell him, which Leeds evidently can't, but if that's not the case, okay, Leeds, I'm fine with that. Just work on him. And I wonder if they're really working on him. I look at this guy and I just think the mistakes, the same things we see season in, season out happen. So I just love us to put just some mass focus on this guy. It might not be able to develop. He might have too many deficiencies there. But for Farke to still come out and essentially highlight the fact that he's the best keeper in the division. Daniel, look, mate, we've been here longer than you. You're talking absolute waffle. He ain't the best keeper in the division. He'll never be the best keeper in the division. And in the Premier League, you'll suffer with him there as well if we were to get there. So, yeah, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Anyway, Dean's in the building. Cheers for your super chat, bud. Would you take Yedder from Monaco? He's a free agent and a prolific goal scorer. Dean, 100% I'd take him, mate. The wages would be a massive issue, of course, with Ben Yedder. But I think it's, yeah, of course I would, mate. Of course I would, 100%. Would you classify the Borough game as a must-win? I feel like another draw, especially at home, is concerning. I wouldn't say it's concerning, mate. I wouldn't say it's concerning when it comes to that. And I'm not, as I said, I think Leeds will go up this year. And these are all problems that we've seen and we've discussed on the chat. And a lot of you guys just agree with it anyway. But these are little bits of which you can solve now when a player's stock is relatively high, which Meslier for some reason still is. You can still sell him on this 19 clean sheets he got last season. Sell him on that. You know what I mean? But we should be able to do that as a club. Who, you know, you get way worse players going for a lot less. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Or at least get a number two in. not like Carl Darlow, but an actual number 2 who's going to challenge him. Borough might be the perfect opportunity for that. Put in, but with it's Cairns and Darlow, isn't it? So you're not ideally wanting one of those to start either. It doesn't feel like we've got any competition in one of the most important positions on the pitch, and I think it's been neglected a little bit. If I'm being honest. Carl says that there's over 400 not liking the video. Smash a like, guys. Yeah, and we're streaming across platforms, everybody. There's currently over 1,800 of you in the building, so please make sure you're liking the video. If you're on Facebook and Twitter as well, come on over to YouTube, say hi, subscribe. There's 40% of you not subscribed. Make sure you do so. You can get HD version of this video as well on YouTube, which might help a lot of you. It's better, more accompanied to televisions and laptops and stuff like that as well. So I'd suggest that. Also, guys, really exciting news as well. The FPL team that we've got, link in the description below. I am third bottom. Third bottom, but there's only 25 of you. If you want to get involved, there is not that many points on the board right now. There's 25 of you. I'm giving away a prize for the FPL winner at the end of the season. A prize, whether it's merchandise or a league shirt or whatever. Get involved. It's free. Absolutely free, but you have to be subscribed to the channel. You have to be subscribed to the channel. If you're not, you won't win. So make sure you get involved in the FPL, everybody. Link is in the description below. I think it's called Gaffer, but it's EFL. It's all EFL. So make sure you get involved, everybody. As I say, it's free. 100%. You might as well. Morning, Connor. I'm up early across the pond. Glad to keep a live stream. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Brantley. One of the best names I've seen on here as well, buddy. Thank you so much. Didn't like Farker's comment saying Mez says 49 over 50 shots, because that's just not true. Look at the shots at the near post. He hasn't saved the last 49 of them. Yeah, mate, 100%. You bang on. Banter Effect says, do you think Rak Sakyi is better, higher projection than Rowe? What's his current level? I think Rak Sakyi is unbelievable. At Charlton the other season, Palace love him so much. You can tell they've not found a proper place from last season. There's a few disputes in the background when it came to Rak Sakyi as well, but they couldn't find anywhere for him to go and they wouldn't let him go. But they want the perfect project. Look how long it's taken. We're on 12th of August now, and still no one's got Rak Sakyi. They love him. They will not sell him. Don't even acknowledge it selling him, because they've lost Elise. He's almost a blueprint of Elise in terms of the dribbling, the lovely ball control, the balance, left or right, relatively tall as well for a winger. That can be developed when it comes to athleticism. We've seen that. But Jonny Rowe is tall for a wing player as well. Harking back to the old days, you sort of Eddie Gray sort of slant when it comes to sort of tall wingers, not your diminutive type. But lovely player. Lovely player. Good striker of the ball as well. Rak Sakyi's class. He's absolutely class. And if the Blades get him, you'll see a huge elevation when it comes to their forward line. If they keep hold of Hamer, they keep hold of O'Hare, they've got Moore in there as well. Kiefer Moore just for pickup. Brewster's still on the bench. Look, there's a lot there. There is a lot there, and Jerison Rak Sakyi is a top player. Over Rowe, you're asking me honestly, who would I rather have? It's very close. It's very, very close. Both have massive upsides. Rak Sakyi, we would only be able to get on a loan. Rowe, we'd get on a permanent. Okay, so on that slant, I'd go Rowe, because we're able to develop him. There's a massive sell-on potential as well. We can go on the left, can go on the right. We could take him into the Premier League if we got there. He's seen in the Championship before, which we've not seen with Rak Sakyi before. Rowe's been able to demonstrate it with a poor team. We know he can score centrally. We know he can go right, left. Jonny Rowe is a massive... Never think he's had Rowe's like sort of below Rak Sakyi. But I genuinely believe Leeds have got Rak Sakyi above Rowe. And that could be for X amount of reasons. I don't know. Maybe it's even come to expenditure. But the expenditure argument sort of goes out the window when Leeds then throw 15 million quid on Saturday evening at Crystal Palace for him. So I think they're very, very, very close. If I've got a gun, if you're asking me gun to the head, who would you prefer? I'd go Rak Sakyi, but it's going to be impossible for us to get him anyway, because he's not going to sign for us on a permanent. So I'd go Jonny Rowe. Matt's in the building. Hiya, Matt. Rothwell to start, new keeper needed. Wouldn't disagree with that at all, buddy. Backing Meslier in the press makes sense. He's on and would after all, but making him vice captain is needed. It is ridiculous sort of thing. Yeah, and I agree with you, mate. I think the vice captain thing makes no sense. You could even make Joe Rodon vice captain. He's a Leeds player now. Played 50 games last season. I'd take Rodon as the vice captain over Meslier. He's older. He's got more experience. I don't know why Meslier is that. Farker loves him, but what we will know is, it's like if you stuck with Bamford for the full season. Stick with Bamford for the full season, he's going to cost you your job. Yeah, Meslier is sticking with Illan Meslier. I wonder if he's gone to 49ers and be like, I'm happy. It sounds like he'd be happy with this guy because he doesn't even get questioned about him a lot of the time. And in the press conferences, he's coming out and saying, yeah, Illan Meslier, he loves him. He's called him the best, unprompted, called him the best keeper in the division last season. So, yeah, and it is right to big up the goalkeeper because it's the most important position. It is the most important position. So bigging your keeper up is massive because it's a confidence position as well. But we all know, don't we? We all know. Dear. Leeds Live talking Schmodix deal possibly brewing. Yeah, Schmodix is interesting. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But yeah, I guess that could be an interesting one. But yeah, I think we know Leeds is top 2 targets. And I think then Leeds go to the players who are out of that 25-man squad. Zacko Hawk says, would love to see Rowe in the team. Do you drop James at 100%, Zacko? 100%. 100%. Yes, you drop Dan James. I don't get this. Look, energy, endeavour, press, excellent. But he is not on the technical level in a million years. Jonny Rowe can dance through 3 players and put the ball in the back of the net. Dan James can't do that. Willie Gnonto can dance through 2 or 3 players and put the ball in the back of the net. Does he do it enough? Has he done it enough for Leeds? No. But can he do that is the question. Yes. Technically, he can do that. Dan James can't do that. Okay. Dan James, as much as we love him, is a one-dimensional player. And he's very good when it comes to that one dimension. Okay. But Willie Gnonto, Jonny Rowe, Jorginho Rutter, Matteo Joseph all have upsides of having massive ceilings when it comes to the Premier League, massive ceilings when it comes to developing. Dan James is a good player. He's one-dimensional, but he's a good player. And he's very, very good at the championship level. And he's an absolutely quality feather to have to your bow. 100%. And I don't want you guys to think that I'm slagging off Dan. I'm not slagging off Dan James whatsoever. I really like Dan James. But if we're having a conversation of, let's say, Rak Sakyi, Rowe, Rutter, Gnonto, Joe, all these, he's not in the same league, everybody. I understand you might fire at me goals and assists and all this sort of stuff. But you look at his attacking play during a match, chance creation, he's completely outweighed every single time. Scores goals, don't get me wrong, but creating chances, accurate deliveries into the box consistently, all these things, all these metrics that contribute to a game, like sort of most breakdowns when it comes to attacking phases of play. That's Dan James every single week. I'm a massive fan of Dan James, but on a technical level and a production level, there's not a conversation to be had. In my opinion, there is not a conversation to be had. Fronting up men, 1v1, he'll knock the ball past them and run, invariably get a free kick. Fantastic, that's great. But with these plays, you can go inside, you can go outside, you can go through the legs. Step overs, the technical level is just on a different level. And if you can get consistency out of these players as well, who have a higher technical ceiling, Dan doesn't have a chance, bless him. So he's an unbelievable impact sub to have. And we could have a conversation about Verba. Verba's on the bench for me every single week. But we know he's a good player. But is he technically on the same level as Strout? Some of you will say yes. I personally don't think so. I think Strout's ceiling is much higher than Verba's. But I like Verba. I do like Verba a lot. And I know there's nearly 2,000 of you in the building. I know there is 70% of you who will disagree with that. Okay. But we were having this conversation not long ago with everyone in the chat about Gnonto and James. And people were telling me that James is a better player. It's just, for me, that is just not true whatsoever. If you just get consistency out of Willie Gnonto, you will see such a higher level of production, a higher level of taking up space, beating men, bringing other people into play. It's a different conversation. Dan James is a good player, but he's limited. Gnonto isn't limited, and he's a lot younger. I think that's the conversation to be had. Jonny Rowe has got a massively high ceiling. Yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. People love James because he excites, but you're right. And I understand, I completely understand why people say he's an amazing option to have. But he's not on the same technical level as the others. He's just not. And genuinely, if I'm not a data stand, but if you look at a lot of the data production, that backs it up a lot of the time as well. We all have been very confident about these promotion shows this season as favourites, but whenever that happens, it makes me nervous. Yeah, I get that, Sujal. I get that. I can't see Sheffield United finishing above Leeds. Going for a while this morning, aren't we? Going for a mile. And as Aidan says, Dan is an amazing option at this level off the bench. Yeah, interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. All right, everybody. So let's leave it there. There's nearly 2,000 of you in the building. As I've said, the football prizes stuff. Look at this. £3.95. Get yourself involved. 17 instant prizes and a Matteo Joseph signed shirt. Link is in the description below. You're mad if you don't get involved in these. And it's well worth it. If they weren't sponsoring us, I'd be doing it. Really good option for you guys. Link in the description below. Make sure you do that. I think it runs out in a day and a half. £3.99 entry. That's it. And you're involved in all of that stuff. Jesus. Also, Patreon. If you want some bonus articles, which we're producing every single week now. If you want some bonus podcast bits as well, which we're producing every single week now, make sure you get involved in that. Please do so. All goes to the running of the channel as well. And we might get some bonus his and her bits on if you've watched the content before, and a certain person upstairs, which I think will be quite a funny addition to the Patreon as well. Also, we've got merchandise, everybody. Billy Bremner bits. We've got hats. We've got everything. Me and Back 4 have done a collaboration. Link in the description below for that. A lot of people don't check the description. Packed full of information in there as well. Guys, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Get involved in the Fantasy Premier League as well, but you do have to be subscribed to the channel. It has been an absolute pleasure, everybody. And as always, thank you so much for your support, and we will see you in a bit.